It was a cold, rainy evening in the heart of the city, the kind that made people rush home, clutching their coats tighter as the streetlights flickered through the drizzle. Inside a small grocery store at the corner of Maple Street, a tiny barefoot girl stood trembling near the dairy section, her torn pink dress soaked from the rain. In her small hands, she held a bottle of milk, pressing it close to her chest as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Her blonde hair stuck to her forehead, her eyes wide and tired, eyes that carried the weight of hunger and innocence at the same time. The cashier looked at her with pity but said nothing. The rules were clear: no money, no purchase. Just as the girl whispered in a shaky voice, "I promise to pay for this milk when I grow up," a tall man in a navy blue suit turned the corner of the aisle and stopped in his tracks. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping someone in need, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Thread. Your small act of support helps spread hope to millions who still believe in humanity. The man, Alex Morgan, was the CEO of one of the city's largest food distribution companies. To the outside world, he was successful, confident, and powerful, but behind his perfectly tailored suit and calm eyes, he carried the ghost of a past he rarely spoke of. As he looked at the little girl clutching the milk, something inside him shifted. He saw not just a child, but a reflection of himself, lost, hungry, and desperate for warmth. Her tiny hands were trembling as she tried to explain to the cashier that her mother was sick at home and her baby brother hadn't had anything to eat since morning. The man in the suit stepped forward and quietly handed a bill to the cashier, signaling her to let the girl go. The girl looked up, confused, her wide blue eyes shining with both fear and gratitude. She wanted to say thank you, but her voice failed. Alex simply smiled and said, "Take care of your brother." As she turned to leave, something caught his attention, a small, star-shaped birthmark on her right wrist. For a moment, Alex froze. His heart skipped a beat. That birthmark, he had seen it before, years ago, on someone he could never forget. The image flashed through his mind like lightning, a little baby being taken away at a shelter, the sound of crying, the smell of rain. He remembered the day he lost his younger sister in a tragic house fire when he was 12. The rescue teams had saved her but separated them later during relocation. She was sent to another foster home, and he never saw her again. He had always remembered that small, star-shaped birthmark on her wrist. His throat went dry. Could this little girl be? No, it couldn't be. But the thought refused to leave his mind. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the image of the little girl in his mind, her pale face, her fragile hands, and that unmistakable birthmark. He sent his assistant the next morning to the same store, asking for the CCTV footage, pretending it was for security reasons. Hours later, he watched the video, the girl walking into the rain, disappearing down a narrow street behind the old factory district. Alex decided to follow the trail himself. Dressed in simple clothes, he drove down to that area the next day. The neighborhood was run down, broken walls, flickering streetlights, and the faint cries of babies echoing through the alleys. He found the small building where she lived, a dim, one-room apartment with a broken door and the sound of coughing from inside. He knocked gently. A frail woman opened the door, surprised to see a stranger in such a place. Inside, the little girl sat on the floor beside a crying toddler, trying to feed him with the milk she had brought. The woman explained through heavy breaths that her husband had died 2 years ago in an accident, leaving her with 2 children and a mountain of unpaid bills. She worked as a cleaner when her health allowed, but most days they survived on very little. The girl's name was Lily, and she was only 5 years old. Alex listened silently, feeling a deep ache in his heart. The woman coughed again, and Alex noticed the same star-shaped birthmark faintly visible on her wrist. His heart almost stopped. He couldn't believe it, the woman was his sister, Emily. Life had torn them apart decades ago, and fate had brought them together in the most unexpected way. She too recognized him after a long moment of disbelief. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered his name. They embraced, trembling, as years of pain and longing melted away. Lily, unaware of the full meaning of what was happening, looked at them and smiled faintly. That night, Alex took them to a hospital, ensuring his sister received the medical care she desperately needed. He moved them to a new apartment, enrolled Lily in school, and promised to take care of everything. Over the next few months, life began to change for them. Emily's health improved slowly, and Lily grew into a bright, joyful child. She loved drawing stars on her wrist, saying it made her feel special. She never forgot the day she had promised to pay for the milk, and Alex would often remind her with a gentle laugh that she already had, not with money, but with the kindness and hope she had brought back into his life. As years passed, Lily grew up to be a compassionate, determined young woman. Inspired by her uncle's story and her mother's strength, she studied hard and eventually became a social worker, dedicating her life to helping children who suffered the same hardships she once did. On the day she graduated, she gifted her uncle a small framed photo. It was a picture of that old grocery store, with a caption written in neat handwriting, "For the men who bought the milk, you gave me more than I ever dreamed of." Alex couldn't hold back his tears. Time, however, has a way of testing even the strongest hearts. Emily's health began to decline again, and one quiet evening, she passed away peacefully, holding Alex's hand. At her funeral, Lily stood beside him, her eyes filled with grief but also gratitude. She whispered, "She said she was proud of you, Uncle Alex. She said you kept your promise." He smiled faintly and looked at the sky, whispering, "No, it was you who kept hers." Years later, the same grocery store was rebuilt into a community center under Alex's foundation, called the Promise Project. It provided free food, education, and shelter to children in need. On the opening day, Lily stood at the front, now grown, confident, and radiant. As the ribbon was cut, she spoke to the crowd with emotion trembling in her voice. "Once, I was a little girl who couldn't afford a bottle of milk. I promised to pay for it when I grew up. Today, I finally did." The audience erupted in applause, some wiping their tears. Alex watched proudly from the front row, knowing that the little girl he once saw in the grocery aisle had changed countless lives. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Every time you do, it helps us bring more true and inspiring stories to people who need hope. And before you leave, tell us in the comments, what's one act of kindness you'll never forget? Because sometimes, one small promise, like paying for a bottle of milk, can change the world forever. Little girl, something she had unknowingly given him first, the beginning of a family. Over time, he visited them, helped them, and slowly became the father figure the little girl had been searching for, not by being bought, but by being found. The daylight that once felt sharp and empty in his office now felt warm and full. His life, once cold and driven by ambition alone, softened with new meaning. And the little girl, with her pink cardigan and tiny basket, became the light that healed the shadows in his heart. He didn't just give her a dad, she gave him the chance to become one. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your engagement helps us bring more emotional and inspiring stories to you. Before the story ends, please comment below. Kindness can change lives. And remember, sometimes the smallest souls walk into our lives to fix the biggest parts of us.